here is the thing nobody ever says out loud. The people who need you to heal are rarely the ones in your life. The ones in your life, the ones who love you, who have known you the longest, who call themselves your people, sometimes need you to stay exactly as you are, not because they are cruel, but because the version of you that is struggling, accommodating, self-erasing, that version fits perfectly into the shape they built their lives around. And the moment you start to change, to take up space, to say no, to need things, to know your own worth, something in the room shifts. And suddenly, without anyone saying it directly, you are the problem. You started therapy, or you set a boundary, or you just stopped shrinking. And instead of celebration, you got something quieter and much harder to name. A little more coldness, a little more distance, a comment that landed wrong, a conversation where you felt, somehow, like your growth was an accusation. You did something healthy, and it cost you something. And now you are sitting with the most disorienting question healing can ask. Why does getting better feel so lonely? The answer is not about you. It never was. I came across this pattern recently, and it completely reframed something I had been carrying for a long time. There is a concept in psychology called family systems theory. It says that every family, every long-term relationship, every close group of people functions like a system with roles, rules, and a balance that everyone unconsciously agrees to maintain. Your role in that system was probably shaped very early. The peacemaker, the one who absorbs conflict, the one who stays small so someone else can feel big, the one who never asks for too much. And as long as you played that role, the system stayed stable. Psychologists call this homeostasis, the system's drive to return to its familiar shape. When you start healing, you are not just changing yourself, you are changing your role in the system. And the system pushes back, not with a conversation, with pressure, with guilt, with the subtle, maddening suggestion that the version of you that needed less, gave more, and never made anyone uncomfortable was somehow the better version. Your nervous system learned that belonging required self-erasure. Research shows that people who grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments often develop what's called anxious attachment, a deep need to maintain closeness by staying manageable, by not being too much, by making themselves easy to keep around. The threat of losing connection felt, and still feels, like genuine danger. So, your nervous system made a trade, your authenticity for their comfort, your growth for their stability. And for a long time, that trade felt like love. It felt like loyalty. It felt like being a good person. It was only when you started to heal that you realized it was survival. And survival dressed up as love can be almost impossible to see clearly until you are already on the other side of it. Carl Jung wrote that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And the reason it is terrifying is not just internal, it is relational. Because accepting yourself, truly, fully, without apology, changes what you will and will not accept from others. And that change has consequences. You feel it at Sunday dinner when you respond differently to something that used to roll off you and the table goes quiet. You feel it at work when you stop volunteering for everything and someone acts like you have become a different person. You feel it in the friendship where you used to listen for hours, and now, when you try to be heard, something subtle shifts. You feel it most sharply in the relationship where your pain was the glue, and your healing is slowly dissolving it. The grief of this is invisible. There is no good way to explain to someone that your growth is costing you the people you thought would celebrate it. There is no easy way to sit with the realization that some connections were built not on who you are, but on what you were willing to endure. That some people loved the version of you that asked for nothing, and they are not sure what to do with the version that finally knows it deserves something. That grief is real. It is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is the cost of becoming someone who can no longer be contained. This is the part that stopped me completely when I first came across it. The person whose healing threatens the system around them shows up in recognizable ways once you know what you are looking for. You might find yourself shrinking back in certain rooms even now, not because you want to, but because the pull toward the old role is still there. Like muscle memory. The body remembers how to make itself small even when the mind knows better. You might find yourself apologizing for your growth, softening your boundaries, underplaying your progress, doing the work in private because showing it feels like bragging, or worse, like abandonment. You might find that the people most resistant to your healing are the ones who are most comfortable with your pain, and that realization sits in your chest in a complicated way. because it is sad and clarifying at the same time. You might find yourself testing your new self constantly, saying something true and then waiting for the punishment, setting a limit and then bracing for the fallout. Your nervous system is still learning that the new rules are safe. You might find that your healing circle, the people who actually hold space for who you are becoming, is smaller than you expected and smaller than it was, and that the loneliness of that is real, even when the growth is right. None of this is who you are. It is what you learned. Healing inside a system that needs you broken requires something very specific. The ability to stay steady when the pressure to return is loudest. Nervous system regulation is foundational here. Learning to sit in the discomfort of someone's disappointment without immediately moving to fix it. Breathing through the guilt of a boundary held. Letting the room be uncomfortable without making yourself smaller to ease it. This is not coldness. This is learning that other people's discomfort is not always your emergency. Learning to identify safe people, people who celebrate your growth rather than mourn your transformation, is how you build the community that healing actually requires. Not the people who knew you at your most useful, the people who want to know you at your most honest. And therapy is where you practice the most quietly radical act available to you, telling the truth about your experience to someone who will not ask you to take it back. Rilke wrote, "The only journey is the one within," and he was right. But he did not mention how many people will stand at the edge of that journey and ask you not to go. You go anyway. Gently, lovingly, firmly, you go anyway. The goal is not to be fixed. It is to become whole. You are not alone in this. There is a quiet community of people right now who are healing in rooms that did not expect it, growing in relationships that were built for a smaller version of them, finding their way back to themselves, one honest moment at a time. You are part of that community. You always were. Tell me in the comments, has your healing ever cost you a relationship or a role you thought was permanent? You don't have to have it figured out. Just know that whatever you share, someone else will feel a little less alone.